Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Mass Notification with Incident Communications. Our presenter today is Raj Mohanka, Senior Technical Sales Engineer at Everbridge. We will be taking your questions at the end of the webinar using the chat box at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. And now I'm going to turn things over to Raj.
All right, excellent. So I see a box on my screen. Hopefully I can minimize this thing here. Just a second ago it popped up. Can you see this? The square box?
Yeah, we can see that at the top of your screen. There's a
All
little.
right. It's not letting me minimize this, and I don't want to hit. Okay, there we go. Now it's out of the way. Good.
Great.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, everyone. So my name is Raj Mohanka. I'm a sales engineer at Everbridge here. And what I'm going to show you today is two ways to get communications out of our system: mass notification and incident communications. Before I do, I'm just going to very briefly talk about the platform itself. We are a software as a service solution, so everything's cloud-based. You use a browser, so you can be on a PC, you can be on a laptop, you can have a tablet walking around with it. You can use your mobile phone, which I'm showing here, and at different points in the demo, I may share out my phone. So it's really a mobile solution. You don't have to be glued in front of a screen to use this. It's doing whatever you're doing. And I always like to say that Everbridge is not necessarily anyone's day job. You're all busy doing what you're doing. When you need to send a communication, you want to be able to have it set up in advance in Everbridge, so it's very quick and very easy. If you look at the top, you'll see a number of different tabs. I have a whole bunch of tabs because I'm logged in as the highest administrator, but that may not be the case for you. Everything in our system is role-based access control. So you may have people with roles that limit them to only notification, or a role that limits them to only incident communications. Likewise, to get everything into the system can be fully automated. We can do a synchronization with your HR system. So if you have that contact data, you can say once a week, every night, I want to automatically synchronize all of my employee information into Everbridge. That way, you've got the latest and greatest information in here, and you don't have to worry about it. Now, you'll notice that I'm centered on the screen here. I'm based outside of Boston, and there's a bunch of dots and pictures here on the screen. The key thing to keep in mind is that if that data that you bring in from your HR system or systems, it could be plural, that's also very common, and you bring in that information about your employees, it has, hey, here's where this employee works, and hey, optionally, here's where that employee lives. You can have all that information on the map, and you can use that to send out a communication. So for example, I could draw a shape, so I can draw something simple like a circle on the map. It's going to highlight all of the people in that area. I can click on the blue button over here for new notification. It's going to bring up the navigation here on the left. I may not have to type in anything because I might have something ready in advance to, for example, maybe something like building evacuation. It's going to populate that. It's going to go to the correct people I want. As an option, if I want, I could set up a geofence, or what we call an incident zone. So I can say, not only do I want to communicate with the people inside of that shape, that polygon, which by the way could be anything, could be a circle, could be a square, rectangle, could be the shape of a city, a shape of a county, state. You could have preloaded shapes in there for your office, park, or weather pattern. So I can set up an incident zone and say, hey, if anybody enters this, not just now, but in the next week or two, I want them to automatically receive this communication. I can reach them many different ways, and this is something that's completely configurable. This is one of the strengths of Everbridge. You can have many different delivery methods or ways of reaching your audience. We actually have over 20 different ways you can reach people. Most of our customers will do, let's say, 4 to 7, which is definitely better than kind of the manual method, which might be 1 or 2 things. I always say that if you have 1 or 2 ways of reaching people, maybe you'll get them, maybe you won't. But if I've got 4, 5, 6 ways, I'm going to get a hold of them. Those can be in any order, those can be all at once, or those can be spaced apart. So you can say, hey, I want to try people on their mobile app and then give them a minute. And if they don't confirm, then I'm going to send them an SMS. And the SMS might look sort of like this. And if they don't confirm after a minute, maybe I'll send them an email and work our way down the list. And if I've got 6 ways of reaching somebody, and on method number 3, he or she confirms, they're all done. they're not going to see the remaining communication methods because they confirmed. We call that confirm and quit. And then finally below, I can click send and send out that communication. So as fast as I showed that to you, you can reach people using the map. You can do that on the fly, or you can prepare for that in advance. Okay? So let me talk now that I gave that little bit of an introduction about the two ways of reaching out to people. One is a very simple method we call notification or mass notification. And if I go in here to the tab, you'll see we have the active history. I can schedule this out in advance or make it recurring, and I have some of my templates. You'll notice on the map, I didn't have to type in anything because I had text available ahead of time. We call those message templates. So if I look here at my notification templates, I can bring up an example here. I'm just going to click on the pencil icon here to edit it. And you'll see that it's a very simple one-page form. Now that form is almost like putting together a letter or putting together an email. I can determine, do I want this to be high priority or not? Do I want to go through and, well, I should actually have a title for it. I can have a very simple SMS text message. And you want to keep the SMS short and sweet. And we even keep a count here of all the characters to make sure it doesn't get too lengthy. I can hit the checkbox and also send out an email at the same time. And because this is a rich text editor, I can do whatever I want to in terms of the font and the color, and I can go through and insert a photo there or image of a map, whatever you want to. It's rich text. Our system can automatically do text-to-speech conversion. So if someone can't handle text for whatever reason, they have a desk phone, a flip phone, we'll read it out to them. And if you don't like the robotic sound of the computer doing that, you can upload your own. A lot of our customers will upload a file like I'm showing here. So maybe a given corporation has somebody who represents the voice of that company. They could go ahead and do that and upload that audio file for different situations. When you send out a communication, you can send out a simple communication. Here's what happened. You can send out a polling communication, which might be something like asking them a question. Are you okay? And then you could have different responses like, yes, I'm okay, I'm not okay, or I need immediate assistance, or maybe I can provide help to others. And of course, you can have conference bridge communication. Our system comes out of the box with 4 conference bridges. You can have up to 96 people on them. With our advanced version, you can have up to 250 people on a conference bridge. You can have many of those. You can customize it. And of course, you can have management of that and record the whole thing when you're done in an audio file. I'm not going to go through all the different publishing options. There's a ton of options. Here's the important thing. When I send out a communication, I can have a great deal of flexibility. I can send that to individual people. I can send that to groups or teams. And keep in mind, you don't have to reinvent the wheel and enter this stuff into Everbridge. Whatever kind of folder hierarchy you have in your HR system, automatically synchronize that in. So we're a global company and we have country and region and department and team and sub-team. All that stuff's going to be brought in automatically. You can also use what we call Everbridge rules. So rule is a type of logical filter. I want to reach all my employees in Texas who are in the IT department who know how to speak Spanish. The system will filter and reach all of those people. And of course, the fourth way to reach your target audience, the recipients, are using the map, as I just showed you. I'm not going to go over all the settings. I showed you lots of different ways to communicate with people. I can send that out now. I can send that at a future date, or I can make that a recurring message and say, hey, every Friday and Saturday or something like that, I want to send out this message. You can always go ahead and do that. So that's the basics of mass notification, or what we call notifications. It's very simple communication. The key to it is you prepare the whole thing in advance and you send it. Okay? And when you do send it out, you're going to receive the results back and you're going to get a pie chart. So if you look on my right-hand side, you can see this pie chart. And actually what I'm going to do over here is click on this and you're going to see this in a larger image. So the pie chart's nice because this is real time. I send out a communication within 1 or 2 minutes, I'm going to get back all of the information. Did somebody confirm? Did they not confirm? What did they say? And based upon that, I can send the feedback. So all of that, it could be wrapped up in a PDF, or you can go into our reporting tab and have all of the details there, both in terms of standardized reports and customized reports. So everything is being audited and logged by the system, and we maintain this information for 18 months. If you'd like to archive information longer, then just take a backup at month number 17 and keep doing that and store your information as long as you'd like. So that's the basics of what we call mass notification or notifications. Now we have another way of getting communication out called incident communication. This does everything I just showed you before, but what it also does is it gives you the ability to do some dynamic things. So what I mean by dynamic things is at the time I'm sending out a communication, I can go through and I can say, hey, right now, here's the situation, and I want to update what I'm sending out based on a couple little things, and I can put that into my template. And I don't necessarily need to type in all of that. I may be able to have a drop down. So I'm going to open up a template here for an active assailant. This is like a generic situation for active shooter, or maybe somebody has a knife or they're using a vehicle to run over people, all kinds of crazy things out there. And you'll notice that I put some comments in here, 3-phase polling condition. There's a lot of neat stuff you can do with incidents. Think of incident communication as more advanced than mass notification, and it can handle dynamic situations. It's really a forms-based, structured way of sending out a communication. So it might have a form that you fill out with a drop-down, so I don't have to type in something, and that drop-down is going to populate the outgoing message. So if you look at the green squigglies, there's an active shooter reported at building location, and here's the suspect description, and here's some details. So when somebody is sending this out, you can make it structured for them so they don't have to type in as much. These things in this form that change, that vary, are called variables, and you can see them here in the center. You can have hundreds of variables, and obviously we can help you put that together. Based upon what somebody selects in a form, you can actually have logic in that template. So you can have logic built in that says, hey, if somebody sent out and said that this active shooter, this active assailant was at headquarters, send it to the headquarters team. But if they were in Chicago, send it to the Chicago team. All that type of logic you can have built into the form. And the nice thing is that the person who sends that form doesn't have to be aware of that. It's all built in and it's all simplified for them. Another important distinction between incident communications and notifications is that not only can you have a little bit more structured with drop downs and that dynamic information, but you can also have very specific permissionings. These people are allowed to see this, these people are allowed to edit that, these people are allowed to change that. You can get very, very crystal clear. You'll notice also here that I have this tab that says new, another tab that says update, with maybe a different information saying, here's an update to this situation, and then a tab that says all clear, closed, resolved, because maybe later in the day, that situation is completely resolved. So you can have time-based phases. It doesn't have to be 3 phases, because this update you could do again and again and again. So I could have 4 or 5 phases. So something happened, I'm gonna give you an update in 2 hours, gonna give you another update in 4 hours. Okay, now it's been 8 hours, we're all clear, and here's what's going on. And all of those phases are built into one incident communication template. And then the final thing I want to mention is that with incidents, you also have the ability to wrap those things together, multiple incidents together into a container for simplification that we call scenarios. So for example, I could say, look, we have a hurricane warning, but I want to send this communication to the employees. I want to send a completely different communication to my first responders, my crisis team, and I want to send a completely different communication to senior management to let them know everything's okay, we got the situation under control. But all of those communications, I want to hit one button and send that out and get all of that information out. And you can do that with an incident. So with one button, I can launch multiple templates with different types of communication going to different audiences. A great use case for these scenarios is multi-language. Maybe I have something I want to send out in different languages. Well, guess what? I click one button, I'm going to send out that information, that communication to these people who speak English, to this audience who speaks Spanish, and to this audience who speaks Chinese. Different messages going to different audiences. All of it's built ahead of time. I click one button, send it, and it's out. So this is an example of how powerful incident communications can be, that they can go out to all of your recipients. And as I mentioned before, when they go out to people, they can go out many different ways. You can go out over SMS, you can go out over email, you can call them. If you look at my phone here, here's a mobile push example going out to someone's mobile phone. So there's many ways you can reach people with either a very simple communication or a little bit more forms-based, structured communication. So with that, I will pause and I will take any questions that you might have about mass notification or incident communications.
Hi, everyone. So if you want to type in any of your questions into the chat box at the bottom of your screen. Okay, so we have our first question. Can we send to groups in both notifications and incidents?
Absolutely. When you send out a communication, you can go to individuals, you can go to groups, and once again, that can be based on the information you synchronize. You don't have to put that in here. You can go to a logic, what we call Everbridge rules. That works for both mass notification and for incident communications.
Thank you. So our next question is, under notifications, there are two types of templates. What's a message template?
So when I showed you before going on the map here, and I drew a little shape on the map, right? Like for example, I drew a little shape and that reached certain people and I said, click on new notification. I didn't have to type in stuff because I had text. It was basically just text. That's something we call a message template. Whereas a full-blown communication is called a notification template. So message is just the message, just the text. It's just a convenience. It's very convenient for this. It's also convenient for doing it on the mobile phone, but the full-blown template is called a notification template.
Great. So our next question is, can we have two-way communications to large groups with one communication?
Absolutely. So you can do that two-way communication, or what we call polling, and you can do that either with mass notification or with incidents. Both of these, you can do that with an individual person. You can do that with a large group, for example, every single employee in the organization, and you can do that with any kind of logical rule or filter that you would like.
Great. So our next question is, can we support more than 3 phases for incidents?
Yes, so when I showed you before, it's basically a new message, an update, and then you kind of close it out or resolve it. And that update you could hit multiple times. So if I wanted to, I could have 10 phases, right? I could send something out when this bad thing just happened, and then I can send out an update 8 times every hour, and then close the thing out at hour number 9 or whatever. Completely up to you.
Great. So our next question is, can you upload Excel documents with contacts into Everbridge?
Absolutely. So there's multiple ways to automate getting information into our system. So I'm going to go into the contacts tab here. And we have a template that shows you what it should look like. And then you can upload into Everbridge here a comma delimited spreadsheet of all of the information, both for regular contacts and even for dynamic stuff. You do not have to do that. That's one way to do it. A lot of our customers will completely automate this process using our secure file transfer or using our REST API so that it's basically hands-off. If you have an IT department there, they can set this up so, every night, every week, you set it up once and then it's hands-off and it's just always going to upload that information into the system. Other questions? I think it looks like there might be other questions.
Yes, there are. Sorry about that. Under notifications, oh, sorry, I think we answered that one. Just having a little technical difficulty with the questions. Hang on one second.
Let's see if I can see it here.
Great. So another question is, how do we upload our contacts into Everbridge?
Yeah, as I showed you in the contacts tab, there's an uploads area and you can bring it in a comma delimited spreadsheet. But like I said, for a production situation, what people like to do is automate it. So you can use our secure file transfer or you can use our REST API and have somebody in your IT department have a little script that runs and automates that. So there doesn't need to be any human touch. You can set this up once, and then after that, on a regular basis, once again, every night, multiple times a day, once a week, whatever your schedule you want, it's going to take the data from your HR system or systems and upload that into Everbridge.
Great. Another question is, could you show the user profiles and what each is expected to provide before an event?
So what you want to do is get your contacts. We call it contacts. When we say user, we mean something like it's going to be somebody who's administrative in the system. So I'm going to bring up my contact record and show you this. There's really only 4 mandatory pieces of information that must come from your HR system. Everything else is extra. So if you look here where this asterisk is, my first name, my last name, some type of external ID. Some companies have a number or sometimes they just use the email, and then record type, which is typically going to be employee, but you could imagine it could be contractor, visitor, temp, whatever. That's it. Those are the 4 mandatory pieces of information. Outside of that, I can have my country, time zone. I can have a whole bunch of different ways to reach me. I can have different locations where I am, my office, my home, etc. All different types of dynamic information, travel information. I could have what we call additional information, like here's my job title, here's my cost center, other types of information. So it's really things that you want to set up ahead of time and not think about that in terms of communication, but think about here's all the good data to have from my HR system or systems into Everbridge so that when something happens, we have many different ways of reaching people.
Great. Another question is, where do I find secure file transfer?
So this is really kind of a back-end thing. I don't know if we want to get into this, but in the settings of the system, at the higher level, basically at what we call the organization level, I'm down at the org level, organization level, but the higher level, the account level, is where we'll have settings for secure file transfer and also the options for the API. But that's something, once again, that you can set up in advance and automate that.
Great. Another question is there a character limit on SMS?
Yeah, so we don't put the limitation on SMS. This is basically the industry protocol, right? So when we send it out, it's going to go out and it's going to be limited by, I forget what it is, 140 characters or something. That's just a global standard for SMS. So when Everbridge sends out a communication, it leaves our cloud and it goes out to the world, right? It goes out to the telco network. It goes out to the SMS aggregators. It goes to the mobile carriers. They have their own limitations. But what we do is we provide information to the person putting together the template to say, hey, don't write a book in the SMS because it's going to get chopped up into pieces, and the SMS aggregator could potentially get those pieces delivered to your audience out of order. So you always want to keep your SMS short and sweet, not just because of technical limitations, but because people these days have 0 attention span. So when something bad happens, I'm an employee, I want to know with 1 or 2 sentences. Don't make me read a lot. I just don't have the patience for it. If I do want to read, I can go and I can check out the email that you sent also, and I can look at that later today. And by the way, the email might also have an attachment with a Word doc and a PDF that's got 20 pages of background information, and I can look at that next week.
Great. So another question is, do you need a computer to access the mass notification check-in results?
No, so you can use your mobile phone. So we have a capability on the mobile phone. I'll show you right here. So there's an app on the mobile phone called the Everbridge, which is really for receiving communications. You can also do what we call an unsolicited message or a see something, say something. But primarily for administration, we have something called Manage Bridge, okay? And Manage Bridge, as you can imagine, you log into it, and from here, I can get a crunch down view of notifications and incidents. I can pick out a template, I can make a little change, I can send that out, and then I can see all the results. So do I need to be in front of a computer? No, I can do this entire thing from my mobile phone. So I always like to say, I can be on a boat on the lake, I can take out my phone, launch a communication out to 20,000 people, get the results back in 60 seconds or 120 seconds, and I got the whole thing on my phone.
Great. Another question is, if you have contacts from multiple organizations, can they manage their own profile and how they wish to be notified?
Yes, so if you look at the top here, I've got a setup here for sales engineers with lots of different organizations. So in your company, you can have the high level account, which would be like XYZ company, and then you could have a whole bunch of different subcategories, which we call organizations. So for example, it could be, the East Coast division, the West Coast division, it could be, this state, that state, or the IT department, that. I mean, you could break it down very, very granularly. And within each of those organizations or orgs, as we call them, you can have people with different roles and different permissions. So you can see here, I'm an organization administrator, the highest level capability, but I could have something much less than that. And then I could go through and that could determine what I can see and what I can do. So everything in the system is role-based access control, and you can get very, very specific with that if you would like to.
Great. Another question is when you show scenarios under incidents, is that a part of all versions of the system or just specific versions?
No, scenarios is part of incidents, and that's just part of it.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And then another question is there a maximum number of contacts you can upload?
Not that I'm aware of. We've got some gigantic customers. We've got the entire state of New York State. We've got Florida. We've got huge swaths of, California, Texas. We've got international customers. No, I don't think there's a limitation. If you look at my system, it's a demo system. I used to keep over 1 million in here. Just to make it a bit more realistic, I deleted a bunch and I got myself down to 111,000. I don't think it's possible for anybody to overload us. I mean, we've notified people during hurricanes. We've notified like 20 million people in 3 days. So no.
Great. Thanks, Raj. That's all the time we have for questions today, but we will follow up with you and answer your question individually if we didn't have a chance to get to it during the session. Thank you for attending our webinar and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.